Hi everyone, good morning. This is Corinne Lafont, your favorite radio host, your only radio host and favorite girl, of course, broadcasting to you from the lovely island of Trinidad and Tobago on Between the Lines. And you know, I always start my show off being thankful, or for some people they will say grateful. I'm thankful to be here another day, to see another day, to be breathing and have all my faculties intact as far as I know, and to hear to hear all the beautiful birds singing outside or whatever they may be doing. They may be quarreling, but it doesn't sound that way. It comes across very nicely. So it's a beautiful sunny day here in Trinidad and Tobago. And, I'm just thankful for everything and what the day is going to bring. And I have with me a lovely lady, Elsie Biscop. She's actually in Spain. So can you imagine? She's in Spain, I'm in Trinidad and Tobago, two totally far off places, but in the same world. See how we are bridging global boundaries by just technology? Isn't that amazing? Yeah, and bridging time as well. We're talking at the same time, even though there's a time difference between us. Yes, so let me tell you what we're going to be talking about today. And we're speaking about the mission of darkness and suffering. What a topic. I chose that specifically. I really am interested in talking about this topic, the mission of darkness and suffering. And for the next 30 minutes, that's what Elsie and I are going to be talking about. And let me tell you a bit about her before we get into it. So Elsie Biscop, and she spells her name like else. You know, like you say, what else? E-L-S-E, but it's Elsie Biscop. She's Danish, but living in Spain. She spent the last 20 years studying Martinus's work. We'll find out who Martinus is. She also has university degrees in Spanish and English philology, and was a teacher for many years. She has always been a searching soul. Nice. And in 1995 came across a book that mentioned Martinus. She hadn't heard of him, just like I haven't, so we're all going to learn of this Martinus, but found his work beyond her wildest imagination. The work had all the answers she had been looking for, and then some. I hope that the answers she'll be able to share with us, and what really were the questions that she was searching, that she was asking. As she got deeper and deeper into it, the magnitude of Martinus's work gradually dawned on her. It is a complete world picture where everything fits. The logic is overwhelming, and it changed her way of visualizing the world, where before she saw chaos and ruin, she now sees a beautiful edifice of reason, logic, and love. Sounds like a beautiful love story. Yeah? So let me officially welcome Elsie to Between the Lines. Welcome, Elsie.
Thank you so much. I'm really excited to be here.
I'm excited to have you. And I know we could have spoken on all the other normal topics that you would have spoken about, but when in reading your information online and your biography, etc., I picked that. The mission of, let me remind myself again, the mission of darkness and suffering. In other words, when you say mission, what is the goal, the objective, the lessons? Why do we need darkness and suffering? Why do we go through these things, these experiences? You know, some people say, oh, woe is me, but they're not looking at, oh, wow, I'm so happy to be going through this. Nobody's happy to be going through at the time, because they're thinking, oh my God, I'm the only one dying. I'm dying here. I'm suffering. Nobody understands, whatever. But they don't see that it may be for the greater good. So what I want us to talk about today is start from the beginning. And there's going to be a vehicle passing shortly. So let me ignore that and let's just focus on the topic of conversation. Start from the beginning. Let's do a quick synopsis of your journey and understanding who Martinus is. What are the questions you were soul searching for? What were the answers you received? Because probably in you sharing that, we may be able to highlight this whole mission of darkness and suffering. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. I was a searching soul because I was looking for the meaning of life. I was looking for an answer to what am I doing here? What's the journey about? Why am I here? And you know, I think my case was one of when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Yes.
And this happened to me in 1995 when a book about Martinus suddenly fell into my hands, literally. It literally fell into my hands, and I opened it, and I intuitively knew that here were my answers. And then I started to delve into this material, and I was totally overwhelmed that it existed, that something, that a knowledge like this existed, because it turned out that Martinus had written 10,000 pages of spiritual wisdom based on a spiritual expansion of his consciousness that he experienced when he was 30. That was in 1921, as it was many years ago. And he had two very profound spiritual experiences in which he left his physical body and sort of encountered a divine presence. And from that time on, his consciousness had expanded so that he was able to see into the spiritual world, because there's a spiritual world before and beyond the physical world. And in this spiritual world, which is often sometimes referred to as the Akashic records, all the knowledge about the universe is actually there. And Martinus was able to control this, that he had the energy of intuition on the control of his will. So whenever he had a question, he could focus on it, and the answer would come to him immediately. It would be downloaded like this, and he would have it, and he could write it down using his intelligence. And that's what his whole work is about. And I mean, I had never in my wildest dreams imagined that a complete world picture existed, comprising both the spiritual and the physical levels of existence. And it's so important to understand that apart from this physical world, there's a spiritual level, and the spiritual level is where everything has its origin. Just as we know that when we have a thought, everything that we have begins with a thought. Everything we do, everything we create, first it's a thought. And a thought is also a spiritual thing. You cannot hold it in your hand, you cannot weigh it or measure it. A thought is something that exists in physical matter, just as the whole of the in spiritual matter, just as the whole of the spiritual world does. So when we are talking about the spiritual world, we have to realize that the spiritual world is where everything has its origin. And the spiritual world is also a conscious world. We are living in a conscious universe. It's not a dead universe filled with dead matter that is whirling around without any plan or anything. No, everything is controlled by eternal spiritual laws. And this thing with the spiritual world and the physical world is really where we have to go to answer the question you had about the mission of darkness. Because the spiritual world is a very, very fantastic and light place. And if we ask anybody, those that have had a near-death experience, they will all say that dying is a fantastic thing. They don't really die. They are still feeling the same, only they don't have a physical body anymore. But death is an absolutely beautiful experience, which is actually also what Martinus says. But we have to understand that we are eternal beings living in an eternal universe. And in order for the universe to be able to exist eternally, it has to have a structure that will allow an eternal existence. And in order to allow an eternal existence, you have to have contrast. You cannot only have good and lovingness. I mean, if you only had the spiritual world where everything is light and beauty and love and wisdom, then when everybody alive in that universe had experienced this to the full, then where would they go? They had nothing new to experience. So at the end, they would be bored, even by this absolutely wonderful thing. And this has actually been symbolically represented in the Old Testament, where we see that Adam and Eve are being thrown out of paradise. They have to leave paradise in order to experience a different type of world. And this different type of world is the physical world. And that is why the universe is so full of planets with life on it. There's life everywhere in the universe. The universe is teeming with life. There's life in all solar systems, in all galaxies. There's life everywhere. And this life on these physical planets is there for us, the eternal human beings that we are, to experience the contrast to the spiritual world. So we have to come down onto the physical world, onto the physical plane. Mm-hmm. And the physical plane is actually the place where we experience darkness, because in order, as I said, for the universe to exist eternally, it has to have contrast. So we have the light and love in the spiritual world, and we have the darkness and unlove and hatred and war and suffering on the physical plane. And that is actually the mission of the physical plane. That is to constitute a place of contrast to the spiritual world. But the physical plane is, sorry, did you want to say something?
No, I'm listening to you. I'm listening.
Okay, the physical world is obviously divided into different types of living beings. Like we have the mineral matter, we have plants, we have animals, and we have human beings. And we, the human beings that we are today, have come a long way on our journey, because as we move through eternity, we move in cycles, and the cycles move up into spirals, so that we never experience the same. But when we enter the physical world from the spiritual plane, where we have had a very, very, very long sojourn, we start in mineral matter, and then we evolve into plants, mm-hmm. and from plants we evolve into animals. Mm-hmm. And it is in the animal kingdom that the culmination of darkness and suffering takes place, because it takes place when the animal, sort of, in order for the animal to survive, it has to live on egoism. It has to be very selfish in order for it to survive. And this selfishness is something that we learn as we pass through the animal kingdom. Mm-hmm. And a lot of us still have a lot of that selfishness in our mental setup. And we have to understand that, of course, we don't only live one life. And in order to understand our fate, and in order to understand what happens to us, we have to realize that the one life theory really sucks. The one life theory has absolutely no place in this universe. We all live an infinite number of lives, and we can only understand our fate in a perspective that encompasses many, many lives. And the reason why this is so is that we reap as we sow. I mean, the universe has been so ingeniously organized, mm-hmm. that what we do to others, we get back. It becomes our own fate. Mm-hmm. So very important to understand that when we talk about our fate, it is something that we ourselves have created. We have created it on the basis of what we have done to others. Mm-hmm. So when we kill or maim or treat animals in very disrespectful ways, when we cheat and lie and are greedy, mm-hmm. all this will come back to our own life as fate in a later incarnation.
Wow.
And yes.
I want to say something, because you're saying a number of things that totally resonate with me. I do believe in everything. I mean, I haven't read Martinus's work, no. But I am quite very much so. I mean, I don't know what other adjectives to use to express that I'm on a spiritual journey, and I can totally relate to that. Mm. We are spiritual beings, and what we are in the physical is just a form, a temporary form, in order for us to relate here on this earth. Mm. And from what I've understood, it's just we are vibrating at such a intense rate that it takes a form. Mm. It takes a physical form for people to see and touch and to relate, because we are vibrating at such a speed. Yes. My thinking, and you're talking about karmic cycles, mm-hmm. and karma, although people always think, when you hear the word karma, they think of negative, you do me something bad. It's always, when you hear the conversation, it's always something bad. But karma is also something good, because there must be balance, and I believe in balance. You know, if you do good, it comes back to you. If you do bad, it comes back to you. Whether you or passed on in a generation, it's gonna come back. It's gonna come back because life is cyclical. It's just that's just what it is. But
Can
I
I
want
say?
to go.
Sorry. Yes. No, but what you were saying about karma is absolutely right. Karma is not a punishment. It's a loving instruction. It's a loving instruction telling you that what you have done is not in accordance with the laws of life. Like when you take a life, that is not what you're supposed to do because all life is sacred. So when you take a life, you have to experience that action on your own body so that you can realize what the consequences of this are. And also, as you said, when you sow good things, when you sow love and friendship and compassion, that will also come back to you. It's not as if it's only bad things. Like everything you sow will come back to you.
Yeah, and everything you sow. Yeah. Well, if you sow bad seeds, you're going to have bad plants. It just works. But the thing about it is, I want to go back, Elsie. You said you wanted to know. You were soul searching. Now I'm looking around me, and there are people so different to me, and I'm not trying to elevate myself or anything of the sort. I am just on a journey, and I'm wondering what's really happening to the other people. You know, and like a friend, I keep coming back to that because what she said to me grounds me. She said, Corinne, your journey is your journey. Don't worry about anybody else. Because I'm concerned for those unconscious, unaware walking dead who are not experiencing this. And I think, and I'm like, wow, you don't understand what you're missing. What I can't relate to them when they have a conversation with me.
No, it's a very good question.
Yeah, they cannot relate to me. The way I think, the way I talk, the way I move, they just, and some people pick up that I'm different.
Yeah. Some people. Corinne, let me answer your question. Let me answer it because it's obvious that not everybody stands at the same level of evolution or development because not everybody passed onto the physical plane at the same time. It's like a long line of beings that are traveling, and some have come further in this journey than others. And as you say, so many people are still asleep. They are under some kind of suggestion that they don't really think. But we have to understand that we must look upon those who are, maybe we can call it, not as far advanced in their passage through the cycle or on their journey as some others are. But we must look upon them as younger brothers. Like we would never reproach our younger brother and say, hey, you're only 10 and I'm 20. So what's that for you? So we must understand that people are where they are. Yeah. And I mean, there's nothing that we can tell them or do or
yes.
Yeah, that will change that. They have their own journey. Yeah. And they maybe they have to live many lives before they reach the journey where the most advanced people are. Wow. But that is just how it is, and we can't change it. Only life itself can change it, because the speech of life, like every day when we wake up, God or the teacher or whatever we want to call it is standing at the blackboard teaching us. And
standing at the blackboard is right.
Yes, and if we are attentive pupils, we will notice. We notice, today he taught me this. Today I went through that, and there was a lesson in this for me, and I got it. Yeah. But when you still haven't realized that you're in a schoolroom and that the lesson has begun, you are not a very good pupil.
You make me choke. You make
it all goes over your head.
Elsie, you make me choke. Because we are in a schoolroom. That is such a fabulous way of putting what we are discussing into such simple terms and a great analogy. We are in a schoolroom. People think they go to school, their parents send them to school, so they physically sit in a class, they move on from primary level, secondary, etc. But your whole life is a schoolroom. Thank you for that, Elsie. And we don't realize what is the lesson. What is the lesson my teacher is teaching me today? They're not even asking. When I'm going through things, we're talking about darkness, the mission of darkness. Yeah. And let me remind myself again, darkness and suffering. I ask, what is the lesson? Universe, God, Holy Spirit, what is the lesson? And I just stay still.
Yes.
A lot of people are like, why me? I've done all this good. I don't deserve this. They go through that as opposed to just submitting and surrendering. Because while you're going through the darkness and suffering, what the hell could you really do, Elsie? What could you do?
But as I said, you cannot understand your fate seen in a one life perspective. You have to understand that you can only understand your fate in a perspective that spans many, many lives. And this is very important, what I'm going to say now. Nobody suffers more than any other. It's just a question of when this suffering happens. And if you look at a person, like let's say you have a wonderful life, you're famous, you're rich, you're extremely good looking, and you look at people, and there's somebody who is in the gutter, miserable, poor, starving, and absolutely suffering. And he looks at you and he says, why? What's happening? But we have to realize that those who are living a happy life this time around, they have probably put the darkness behind them. Because what they are experiencing now is the result of something that they have suffered, have sown in former lives. They may have sown a lot of love, a lot of help. They would have helped other people. They would have been compassionate and understanding. And of course, then they are reaping that in this life. And another very important thing is that let's say that we die when we are at the end of the 8th grade, but then when we are reborn, we enter the 9th grade. Everything that we have become through our physical lives, everything we have learned, all the experiences we have lived through, all our wisdom, the wisdom that we may have reaped, it goes with us, because Martina says that in our consciousness, and it is our consciousness which survives the death of the physical body. We are not identical to our physical body. We are identical to our consciousness, where all the knowledge about the person we are is stored. And when in this consciousness, we have what Martinez calls our fate element. And our fate element is like a storage room where everything we have learned is stored. Let's say I want to learn today, I want to learn to play the piano. And I start even though I'm in my 60s. I start, and people will say, what a waste of time. What a stupid thing to do. You're in your 60s. You can't learn to play the piano. Of course I can. Because whatever I have learned, I will take with me into my next incarnation, and I will start from there. Yeah. What I have practiced and become good at is what we have become good at in our next incarnation. Yes. And we will still be good at it. And I mean, today it is so easy to see. Look at YouTube. Look at all those children. 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. They sit down, they play the piano like a virtuoso, like a maestro. And then people will say, where does that come from? They can't have learned it. No, they haven't learned it in this lifetime. They have learned it in former lives. And Martina says that to become a virtuoso, like some of these children really are, it's so funny to see. It takes 3 to 4 lifetimes of daily practice to reach that level.
So what you're saying, it is not them, it is their past life through probably another physical body. So what I'm hearing you saying is that, for example, let's do the reverse. You come into this life, you're living good, you got great education, let's say, you're doing well, but things start happening and you're like, what the hell, how is that? You're not thinking that in past lives, not necessarily your physical life on this earth, but past lives from before has brought in things into you that you are now having the negative, let's call it a negative karmic cycle happening in your life. And you're like, what is going on? You're not thinking about that. How can we, and then you're going through the darkness and suffering. How can we in our life know? How can we in our life know? I'm trying to frame the question. Decide or to look within, Elsie, to start doing some introspection, asking questions, and not just being robotic, oh my God, about things, the robotic life, just accepting, not questioning, not seeking. You just do the normal everyday routine. I was looking at some YouTube videos on spirituality and persons, because I follow these things, and I connect with people on my same journey and who have been before me, so that I could understand some of the things that I may be going through that I don't understand, and what I will be facing. Not that we will face the same things, but
I mean,
persons talk about the suffering, the pain. Going through the spiritual journey is not easy. Let me tell you, it is not easy. No. I cry, let me tell you, almost every day. Almost every day I cry. And it hits me at the oddest, I would use the word oddest, but it happened when it's supposed to happen. It happens to me at the oddest times, when you least expect it. The feelings, the emotions just well up in you, and you just have to deal with it. Yes. That darkness, that suffering, those wounds just come up for whatever reason, and you just have to work with it. While somebody might put it down and say, "Stop it! You're not supposed to feel this way." No, you have to allow the feelings, the emotions to come up in you. And people are fearful, Elsie, of yes. dealing with these things, of taking the plunge. Of feeling the pain of oh my God, and I could feel the pain that they are going through, and they just won't allow, surrender and submit, and the ego is just taking them over. Because the ego will do anything, to survive.
Yes, of course, the ego is what gets us through life. But this suffering, I think that, to me at least, it has been a huge help to be able to see the bigger picture. And if you are suffering, and here, this is what Martina says, if you are suffering and you know that this is something that you have to go through for some reason, there's a huge help to be had through prayer. And people are completely disregarding this, and they think that it's just, no, praying is no good. But if you pray to God or Providence or whatever you want to call the higher spirits, pray for strength to go through this suffering that you are passing, and pray to be able to do the right thing, then you will get relief. I guarantee it.
I guarantee it myself too. I can tell anybody, I guarantee that, and I endorse what you're saying.
Yes. So I mean, no matter how dark we are, no matter if we're in the gutter, freezing, hungry, poor as hell, we are never forgotten or left by God. God is always with us, but God also knows that in order for the universe to exist eternally, there has to be the pleasant good, which is the spiritual world, and the unpleasant good, and that is the physical world.
But let me cut you there. As you talk about that, you talk about the gutter. The image that came back to me is Joseph from in the Bible. I mean, Joseph was despised by his brothers, thrown in a pit, basically left for dead, went to slavery, ended up being sold as a slave, just because he had a gift that they didn't have. The man had a gift, and he probably didn't understand his gift. He's probably saying, why in the hell is this happening to me? Why am I getting dreams? Why am I having these thoughts? What he's like, get rid of this thing. What is happening to me? I don't want this. I want to be like everybody else. No. But God put something in him that is meant for him. And because of that, he was ostracized, despised, thrown in a pit, everything, sold as a slave. But he was elevated. He ended up living in the palace and running the entire
exactly. And I mean, we will all become perfect human beings. We're on our way to becoming real human beings, but only we haven't arrived there yet. But we're all on the way. And if we look at the spiritual awakening that is flooding the planet at the moment, we can see that there's light at the end of the tunnel. We are approaching the place where we will live in peace. But right now, sorry.
Light. No, this is lovely conversation. Don't be sorry.
No, it's just that I interrupted you.
No, you're not interrupting me at all. This is how we talk on this show. Listen,
okay.
Listen, because we're so passionate about it. If you're saying there is light at the end of the tunnel, but there are people who, and sorry for being negative because I'm not a negative person, I'm just reinforcing this in order for them to understand. They need to think in such a positive way that there is light. As much as the darkness may consume you, you can be that light. You don't have to wait for the light at the end of the tunnel. You can be the light that shine around you. Don't wait for the light at the end of the tunnel.
Yes, and there's always light. The light always comes after darkness. Don't we see that every day? Yes. Don't we see that when the world spins, it's dark and then it's light? Yes. It's not as if that this is an eternal darkness. There is no such thing as eternal darkness. There's just a passage through darkness, and this passage through darkness is painful, but it's there for a reason. And that's why Martinez says that it's the unpleasant good. It's a good thing because it teaches us to become more compassionate, more loving, kinder, like respecting other people. And we are all on this journey, and the good thing is that at the end of we are all subject to a process of perfection. We are being perfected for every life we live. And the next time we reincarnate, we will be better looking, we will be a better person, we'll be more moral, we'll be more ethical, we'll be more intelligent, we'll be everything more. And on it goes until we reach the point when we have become real human beings that can only show universal love. And once we have reached that, school is over for this time around. So we actually stop reincarnating for a very, very long time, and we live in the spiritual worlds until that experience of living in the spiritual world, it will again need the experience of contrast.
Let me ask you something. You mentioned something earlier about Martinez, and he was able to transcend to the point where he wanted something and he was able to manifest that. Like he was able to download. And when you talk about that, I think about the movie The Matrix, because I do believe we're living in a matrix. Okay. and when in that movie they were able to just plug in. They didn't know anything, and they just plug in, and just like on a computer, whoop, they knew how to do Tai Chi, they knew how to handle guns, they knew how to, everything was just downloaded in a zap, because they were plugged into source. They were plugged into source, Elsie. We need to plug into source. How was Martinez able to work within himself? You talk about his work from 1921, but I'm sure he was working on that from before. I mean, and I need to really research Martinez's work.
Martinez.
How are you able to? How was
Martinez? He was not just anybody. Now Martinez was not just anybody, and he was on a mission to this physical plane, to the earth. And he was very clearly, when you have read his work, which is huge and amazing and everything, you will know that he was a spiritual missionary sent down to help us on this planet. And his work in its totality, the 10,000 pages and the 200 symbols and everything, is actually called the Third Testament. It's the Third Testament because it is a continuation of the New Testament, or a continuation of the mission of Christ, because Jesus said to his disciples, I have still many things to tell you, but you cannot bear them now. But the Holy Spirit, which the Father will send in my name, will reveal the whole truth to you. And Martinez's work is really the Holy Spirit. And I know many people are very skeptical about this, and they think, no, it can't be. But yes, it is, because once you have read it, and I have read it now, I've studied it for 24 years, I read it every day, I've read it and I've reread it and I reread it, and every time I read it, it becomes bigger, it becomes more overwhelming, it becomes deeper.
Expansive.
It is really, really, really not something that can be ignored.
Yes.
And I'm so pleased to say that I have written now 7 books about aspects of Martinus's work, and my first book was called Death is an Illusion, and it was published in 2002, and it's on all the Amazon. And I mean, that is a general introduction to Martinus's world picture. And if you don't believe what I'm saying, just go and read that book, because it will give you an idea about what it is. And it will, I mean, I think the truth vibrates so much from the whole Martinus material, and hopefully also from my humble books, because I'm only doing, I'm doing this in only to make his work better known. And it's just amazing. And I mean, if once you get onto the path of the Martinus work, you will never let it go. And once your mind has expanded to this level, it will never shrink again. It will not.
Once it can't open, it can't. Once
it can't.
You start on a journey, there is no turning back. Let me tell you.
No.
There is
exactly.
none. And the universe and all the whatever that works together with it, they just lead you. They just lead you. You have no choice in the matter.
No, I am exactly. And I mean, we're all on that journey. Yes, we're all on that journey. And
I am telling you, and especially if the most important thing, Elsie, especially if somebody is going through darkness and suffering or anything at all, you have to let go. And letting go is the most important. So letting go goes with surrendering and submitting. Let go. Once you let go, you're going to start seeing, hearing, knowing, leading. And you're like, don't even ask why. I mean, as a human, you might even ask, whoa, what am I feeling here? What? And then it comes back to you. Just go with it. Just go with it.
And there's another, I mean, apart from praying, I mean, when you're down and out and unhappy and all that, praying is a great tool. And there's another little, I don't know if I can call it a trick. And I know it's difficult to say, or it's hard to believe that it's a good thing to live in gratitude. And I know that when you're out and down and out and you're living in the gutter, it's hard to live in gratitude. But if only you knew the power of living in gratitude. Let's say, you can be grateful for anything. You can be grateful for a coin that lands in your baking bowl, or you can be grateful for a cup of coffee or a hot meal. You can start at the bottom of gratitude, and you can work yourself up. And the more you live in gratitude, the more you will attract things to be grateful for, because the law of attraction works like that.
But I'll say something there. You mentioned prayer. You don't pray only when things are bad. You pray and you say, I am so thankful for this. You talk about gratitude, but you pray is not, you see, this is the whole concept people need to understand. You don't go to God only when you need him, when you're suffering. No. You go to him and say, thank you, Lord, for this. Thank you, universe, for this. Don't only go to the man when you want something and then turn your back. That is not how it works.
It's a very good point, Corinne. Very good point. That you should, of course, also go to God when you're happy and grateful and say, actually, you should talk to God all the time.
All the time. That is what I do.
And a friend sitting here next to you.
And if you're unsure. You say, look here, I don't know about this, I don't know what to do. I need your guidance. So it's not when things are bad. It's not only when things are good. It's when you don't know. And you say, I'm leaving this to you. So at any point throughout the day, you're going through and you don't know, you're like, look, tell me what are the words to say. Tell me when to be silent. Tell me when not to respond, not to react. Guide me. Use me as your instrument. That's always my prayer. Use me as your instrument. I am here to do your will. Whatever it is that you ask me, help me to be submissive, to surrender to you, that I can follow. Help me to be obedient and patient. These are the things.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm not saying that at times I may not resist. I'm human, but I quickly come back and remember what I said. I have to just follow, and I ask for forgiveness. So I just follow through. I'm like, a simple thing. I'll tell you a simple thing, Elsie. I would be, checking out YouTube videos and whatever. And because I meditate in the morning and I meditate at night. Every night I do my meditation. Sometimes even during the day. If I'm called to do my meditation, I stop everything what I'm doing and I meditate.
I know exactly what you mean.
Yeah. Whatever I'm called to do, that's what I do. And I would be clicking on a video. I might use my phone, going to bed, take off the light, get in the mood, everything. And I would click on a video. And this is what I normally would use, to meditate in the night. And suddenly my finger end up touching something in a split second. And I end up on another one. And I'm like, all righty then, if that's what you want me to watch.
Exactly.
I am not even resisting that. This is what you want me to listen to. I'm going to listen to that.
Yeah, never resist it. Just go with the flow.
Yeah.
And as I said, this is what he wants to teach me today. Great.
Yeah.
So I'll be an attentive pupil.
A simple thing, and I might be prone in a split second. I might be prone to be upset. I'm like, that's not the one I wanted to watch. It's not about me. For some reason, this video just end up replacing the one I normally watch. There is a reason. I'm like, okay, that's what you want me to do. I'm going with it. I'm going with it. There's so much we can talk about, Elsie, about Martin Huss's work. 10,000 pages is not an easy thing we could do in 30 minutes. And I'm sure we have gone over 30 minutes.
It's a lifelong study, Corinne.
If you have done it in 24 years and you're still studying and reading, but I'm going to tell you this. I would love to do more reading, and I shouldn't say more reading. I would love to start on Martin Huss's work. Let me understand him, because there may be things just like you on your journey that may be able to help me and help others. And I want people listening to this to realize that, as you said, we live many lives. We're on a plane. We're on a journey. Yeah. There have been things from in the past that come and join us, and there are things that we do know that will affect people in the future. Okay, so we have to think about that. And
can I just say something, Corinne? That just on the 3rd of January, I published my 7th book together with a friend, Maria McMahon, and it's called Reincarnation in a Nutshell. And it's a little short book, only 120 pages.
I'm going to ask you to stop there 1 second, because I'm going to feature that on your website. Hold 1 second. Yes. Let me grab a page. And feed, because I normally feature my guest website. So hold 1 second. Tell me the website again.
My website is called newspiritualscience.com.
Yes, I have it here.
Yes, but my latest book is called Reincarnation in a Nutshell. And it is a completely logical explanation as to why reincarnation is real.
Are you
yes, that's yes. And here you can see all my books, also my latest book. I mean, if you want to have an idea, and this is not religion. This is absolutely totally logical. It's totally logical, mathematical explanation as to why reincarnation is much more than than just a religious belief. It's at the bottom.
Oh, you have so many. You have so many, Elsie. What is going on with you?
I've just been inspired. I'm inspired.
I know that feeling. Believe me. And
yes,
and it's like you're like a
it's
pit
the
bull.
next one.
It's like a pit bull. You hold on and you can't let go.
Oh, please keep scrolling. There it is. Yes. And yes, and it's just the shortest way to get your head around reincarnation, how it happens, because people have no idea about how does reincarnation actually take place. But Martinus describes this process completely in a complete way. So it's all explained in this little book. And as I say, it's your exit key from the one life theory, because when you look at life in the one life theory, it's illogical, it's unjust, and it's unloving. But once you get the big
people say you have one life to live is a lie.
It's a lie. It's a lie. It's the biggest lie there that exists. And if only people would get their head around that they cannot die, that this death that everybody is so afraid of is nothing. We have all died millions of times. It's not as if the end.
But you have to die. You have to die unto yourself in order to live. You have to die.
Yes.
You have to kill the ego. You have to, or tame the ego, some people say, but you have to die. As I was listening to John Bradshaw, I don't know if you have listened to his work, John Bradshaw.
No.
He too is also, well, he passed, but if you check him out on YouTube, very, very good work.
Yes.
On a spiritual journey. And he speaks about depression. And he says that people, when they have depression, they think it's a bad thing. It's a good thing. Because it means to say that you're letting go of something in order for you to be better. But what happens is that they stay in that place of depression as opposed to working through it. They get stuck. They get stuck in that depression as opposed to seeing it as a path on which they're on to help them let go, to die. Yes. Something about whatever you're going through, that wound, that whatever has to die. You have to... whatever has triggered it, you need to deal with it. You need to face it and put it to rest.
Yes.
But put it to rest, not to say come back and bring and dig it up again. Put it to rest in the sense that you're good. You're good after. You can live. You can move on. It doesn't impact you. It doesn't trigger you anymore, and you move on. But it's death. All the things that we're going through, the darkness and suffering, they are forms of death.
Yes, and I mean, the death also has another big mission, and that is that it's the mind that shapes your body. And that is why when we were very primitive beings, like we lived in big primitive bodies like the Vikings, and the Vikings, they could kill and they could do all sorts of things. They could raid and rape and whatnot. But as we evolve and become more and more humanitarian, our bodies have to follow that mindset. So in the next life, we will have a finer body. We will have a body that will reflect the new wisdom that we have learned during our last incarnation. So that our bodies have to follow our mind. And that is also why we die. We actually also die in order to replace the body we have now with a better body, with a better, finer body, with a body that corresponds to our new wisdom, to the new place we have reached on our journey. So that is also the mission of death, is to change bodies. Like we change we buy a new car. We buy a new car when the old car has been wrecked. And any good, and we get into a new kind of world, and we go in that.
You need to upgrade. You need to upgrade. And like you say here, if you want to know answers to life's big questions, but first you need to be searching. And if you're not searching, I would suggest you start asking questions. Don't worry about what other people think, feel, say to you. You're on your own journey. Don't worry about anybody else. You're going to lose friends, let me tell you. Because
I know. I know all about that.
They're not your true friends. I've lost. They're not your friends. You're going to lose family. You're going to lose family.
New friends come out of the blue.
Yeah.
That's what I have experienced. New friends that fit my new mental status. They come out of the blue.
Yes, because you're on a different journey. You start attracting the right people now into your life, and certain people in your life now may stay. It's either they stay or they grow. It's one of the two. They either stay, go, or grow. G-O.
Yeah, precisely. They can grow with you. Yeah. But never deplore the loss of friends. I never would, because when you have outgrown each other, you've outgrown each other, and that's fine. They had a mission in your life. You may have had a mission in theirs. Yeah. And once it's done, and you move on and you move into new friends, and that's just how it is.
And you have better friends, people who you can relate to, and there's nothing wrong with that. That's all part of the journey. Oh my God, Elsie, this has been a wonderful discussion. I know we have gone well over the 30 minutes, but look here, I just have a passion for this topic. I need to check out more of his work, Martinus's work. I've never
Yeah.
heard of him before, just like you. And for whatever reason, that book, as you said, landed in your lap. Things start happening. Listen, what is the thing? As when the student is ready, the teacher appears.
Exactly.
I should rename this program as that. When the student is ready, it is absolutely true. When you are ready, and this is why God doesn't probably give you certain things in your life. So when you say, "Oh, I'm doing everything," what God is, no, He's waiting on you. Why do you think you're waiting on God? He's waiting on you. He has been holding there, right? Waiting on you to prepare yourself to get ready so that when He give it to you, you could handle it.
Exactly.
Stop sitting there thinking that that you're waiting on God. The man has everything waiting on you. So, so you get yourself ready. Elsie,
Yes.
it's been a pleasure. I
Yes.
enjoyed this
It is indeed.
conversation. Don't worry about interrupting me. That's all about this between the lines. You interrupt me
Okay.
as you.
Great.
It's been a pleasure. Any final words for the listening audience?
No, just get my new book, Reincarnation in a Nutshell, and see how easy it is to grasp that concept.
Yes, very good. Thank you so much, Elsie, for being on
Thank
Between
you
the
so
Lines.
much. It was a pleasure.